I'm going to show you how to produce descriptive statistics tables, and in doing so I'm going to demonstrate some of the basic workflow of JASP. What's going to happen is when we start working with these different tabs up here to run different types of analysis, it's going to open up a separate window. And one of the nice intuitive things about JASP compared to SPSS is that it actually contains everything within a single window. So we're going to start with descriptive statistics in this video. And what I want you to do is move your mouse up here and click on the descriptives tab anywhere at all. And it's going to open up two sub tabs for descriptive statistics and reliability analysis. Click on the one that says descriptive statistics and it will take you to this screen here. So on the left hand side you've got a screen that probably looks quite familiar if you've worked with the SPSS menus before. And on the right hand side this is the results window. The results that appear in this window are going to look quite similar to the ones that you've seen already in the output viewer in SPSS. Now, one quick thing about the workflow here. If you want to switch between windows, let's say you just want to work with the results window, you can click on this arrow here to make this the predominant screen and click this arrow here to move it back to split. And if you want to look at the data, it's available over here. So you'll see here that these arrows remain on the sides and you can snap back between windows quite quickly anytime you want just by clicking on the right arrow. You also notice these little arrows up here. If you hover your mouse over this, you'll see that you have the option to drag, so you can actually customize the shape of these any way that you want. So for the moment I'm just going to revert to the split screen and I'm going to show you how to produce some descriptive statistics. So remember that again, the labels are the same in JASP as they were in SPSS for the level of measurement. These are scale variables. The one with a ruler, JASP refers to them as continuous. It's the same thing, scale continuous variables. These are ordinal variables right here. And you'll see the ones that are defined with these three sort of circles here, these are nominal. So in importing some of this data, you'll notice that JASP was actually wrongfully assigned some of the nominal variables to an ordinal, but that's not going to make too much of a difference. What I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to show you how to produce or how to customize this table. So what's going to happen is we're going to select some variables in the window over here and transfer them over to this window. And pretty much everything we do in JASP is going to work the same way. If we want to produce a piece of output, if we want to conduct a test, we're going to select the variables that we want in one window, usually on the left, transfer them over to a window on the right, and then our results are going to appear over here in the results viewer. So I'm going to produce some descriptive statistics for household level income. This is the variable for household gross income, and this is the variable for household net income. So I can simply, there's two ways I can do this. I can double click on it to transfer it over to the variables window, or I can single click on the variable in this window and use this arrow to transfer it over. We're going to use the arrows because again we're going to want to distinguish between moving them to either one of these two windows, which I'll show you in a second. So the next one we're going to move over is disposable income. So these are both household level income. Now you'll see straight away automatically JASP has produced a table of descriptive statistics over here. And here we have our mean income, which is 72,409 for household gross income, and disposable income or average or mean is 55,439. 12,000 valid cases and 0 missing. I'll talk about how to make settings later on. If you remember the last class that we did before the break, we were looking at how to select only households and how to only select individuals. We'll look at that in the next video. Now the next thing we want to do is add some customization. So you'll see down here there are two additional options for plots and statistics. So starting with plots, I'm going to click on distribution plots, and that's going to produce for me a histogram. You'll notice here with the count on the y-axis for first of all gross income and then for disposable income. So for as many variables as I have transferred to this box over here, JASP will produce a histogram for us. We can also produce box plots if we want, which will just summarize, again it's the same information, only this time we have them in the form of a box plot. You can turn these on and off in real time any way you want. And then finally at the bottom we're going to open up the statistics tab. So you'll see here that there's a few different options, but what I want you to make sure that you've got that you have activated for these is the median. If you remember, the distinction between median and mean income is quite important. And if you're trying to remember back to that, just remember back to the classes from before the break where we looked at quantitative data analysis. So here we have our median income, which is 53,610 for gross income and 46,350 for disposable income. So this window will stay active regardless of what I do. So if I decide to click this over into full, if I decide to click back into the data grid, or if I decide to click back over here, the results window is going to stay active. Now there are two ways to save your output here. You'll notice that under at the top of each piece of output, each table and each graph, there's this little downward pointing arrow. And what's going to happen here is I can click on this downward pointing arrow. I can go to copy, and that's going to allow me to copy the table. And from there, I can simply open up a blank Word document, right click and paste it. And again, I'm going to merge the formatting. I have some default settings on my document format. And you can see you can adjust this quite easily by simply resizing the table. And you can delete pieces. And again, it's just pasted as plain text. You can change the labels if you want. You can change this to gross income. And you can change this one to disposable income. And if there are some elements of the table that you don't want, let's say you don't need the missing section here, you can simply delete that entire row. Or if you don't want the minimum or the maximum, you can delete those rows as well. So you can customize the table any way you want. If you want to copy over a graph, it's the same thing. There are two ways to do it. Click on the down arrow and you can either save the image or you can copy the image. It's probably better to save the image at this point, because saving the image allows you to customize the file format. I'm just going to save mine on my desktop, but make sure that you save yours in a dedicated folder. So you can save it as a portable network graphic, or you can save it as a TIFF. I'm going to save mine as a TIFF because this way we can guarantee the resolution of it once we import it into Word. So I'm going to select this TIFF file format down here. You see I've got an example from down here from one that I've tried already. So I'm going to save this as totinc_1. The name that you give it doesn't really matter, just give it something logical so that you can identify it later. I'm going to save mine. So now if I want to add that image into my Word document, I simply go to Insert, Pictures, and I can navigate over to my desktop, and I can click on my graphic and I can import it here. So now I have the graphic in my Word document. So clicking back to JASP, the second way to do this then is you can actually export everything in this window. So if I go over here to this tab, you'll see here I have the option to export results. So I'm going to click on Computer, and then you can browse to your own folder if you want, but I'm just going to save mine in my regular folder. This is the Data Lab folder that I use for everything. So I can give it a name. Again, notice the format. It's going to save this as a HTML document. And by default, this is probably going to open up with whatever web browser you have as default. So we're going to call it results1 JASP and save it. And it should be fairly quick if it's a small viewer. So now if I navigate back to my data folder, you'll see here that there's this little HTML page. Chrome is my default browser, so this is going to launch in Chrome. I double click on it and I can re-access all my results down here. So as we move through this, we're going to add more analyses, and just keep an eye on the workflow. Again, remember we can resize these windows any way we want. We can go back to the data. We can go back to the descriptive statistics viewer, and even if I decide to run another type of analysis, you'll see that the original one that I've done actually stays on top. So every new analysis I do in JASP is going to be preserved in order like this, and I can move back and forth between them fairly quickly. Now the final thing that we might want to do is we might want to split our output. You'll see here that I've got summaries for gross and disposable income. So let's say I want to look at this by group type. I'm going to look at it by, let's say, different job types. I can click this over here into the split tab, and now it's going to produce for me two different tables. One, which is a summary of income for, gross income for people in full-time and part-time, and a summary of disposable income for people in full-time and part-time. And again, it's going to be giving me a set of different graphs. This is gross income for full-time employees and part-time. You'll notice here it's giving me an error because there are too few rows. It's not going to build a histogram for this because there's a very small number of cases over here. It's probably going to do the same for the second one. It's not a good example of a grouping variable, but for example, if you were looking at a split in gender, let's say between personal income, then you might want to use the split option down here. So it's fairly easy to customize. You can add in any variable that you want, and it'll split the output by whatever that grouping variable is. Once you're finished, once you're happy with the results, you can copy paste them into a Word document, or you can export the output using the procedure that I showed you earlier.